part 2 of unlocking the mysteries of our lovely mind and consciousness, the 5D mystic enlightenment functional adult way. I was mentioning one of Daniel Siegel's data points on the mind, or the brain, excuse me, I believe. I always get them, because the brain is the organ, the mind is how it works, and there's a way, or it processes information. So there is a way that he explains it. I'm just not good at repeating it. But the brain, it is shown through studies that when it goes rigid and chaotic, it's actually not the optimization of your health. And what we find is people who have unresolved trauma and stay within unresolved trauma, or those charged states. This is why there's a variety of components that we can look at. A person who doesn't know what rigid means, it's when we react. So my 3-year-old tone, as I said, comes forth with my mother. That's called reactiveness. It means it's instantaneous. You don't know how to stop it, but something triggered it. And that is why your attachment system as well as your drivers are important. So the optimization of human being mental health is flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable. And that's integration of the brain. And integration of the brain means you use your left and your right mode. The left is your chit-chatter, the verbal, and your right is the whatever comes up. And it's nonverbal, and really it sits with the unknown, uncertainty, and unwanted. Sits with everything that is in darkness. And here's where, when you look at neuroscience and their studying of consciousness, it's in the right side of the brain, okay? So I don't like what 4D does with information, because they make stories up with a supernatural. So here's where, as a 5D mystic, what I can tell you, I have clairs. The sphere is shared consciousness, it's energy. The story is yours, and the story is really how you taint it. You can silence your story, and in fact, if you silence, you get that, it's a feeling. But it's a feeling that doesn't ask you to take any action. That's the beauty of not ever disconnecting from pure consciousness, Purusha, it's unconditional love, Prakriti, pure energy, the essence of life. Every 3-year-old, as my lovely teacher Sue Martin pointed out, is a full of life. And she did this gesture, which as she did it, I just felt so sad, because I was like, wow, there's so many children out there that this happened to. And so she had one hand fixed like this, and my regular listeners, you're going to now see it because I've described this to you. And she said, how, and I'm not going to make the loud sound, but how many times does it take to actually beat the energy out of a child, the energy of life? Some of us don't lose it. And that's where my 5D body types are. And so the 5D body type is a person whose inner child is still there and securely attached. The securely attached is because we have a relationship with all of those 6 basic emotions. So we don't feel this human suffering that a 4D body type or 3D body type, and I'm using these words because of being in the 5D oneness consciousness spectrum and seeing what 4D does with their idea of 5D. And that's because their entire subject matter experiences are only spirituality and the spiritual stuff. They talk only about, even here, they talk about yoga without even knowing how to do yoga, the way Sadhguru describes. If you're not all-inclusive, you've forgotten your yoga. You've forgotten your nature, and your nature is love. Stephen Porges explains, a polyvagal theory doctor, why your nature is love, although he's still building his empirical data so that in time, scientific community can see this ventral vagal nervous system or whatever else and however else it is he's trying to, because, you know, to do hypotheses and prove, there's a whole process. But I don't want to get into that one. I want to keep talking about the mind. The mind is with your lovely brain. Your brain is an embodied brain. Your brain is an anticipatory organ. And the left and right mode of your brain, either you get to work with them and put all hands on deck, or you don't. And so the 5D body type, because we're not disconnected from our emotional body, we explore the depths of everything that comes up with a left that is our friend. We don't disconnect from being a person, and we sit in equanimity land easily. In fact, Shiva is our bread and butter. Basically, you're able to just sit and contemplate anything for hours and hours and hours, not in a chit-chatter that is yelling about somebody or making an argument. It's not conflict, it's inner growth. This is that mindset that we consistently utilize in all IHP content. So your infinite higher human consciousness potential experiences because you integrate your brain. Once brain is integrated, your default mode network is downregulated. And the default mode network is where your brain is usually scanning to see if it can turn off its defense mode, fight, flight, fright, freeze, or there's also attach, cry, collapse, submit, please, appease. And can it turn on its social engagement, ventral vagal nervous system? Can I sit still and be safe here? And for the default mode network to be downregulated, a 5D mystic will have done nothing except for one thing: consistently choose to be in a state of unconditional love and in a state of reflection and also processing of emotions, no rumination. So when people have relationships, and here a day in the life of a securely attached person who's a differentiated self, who's driven with self-agency, if you hurt my feelings, I'm going to learn how to move on from that, not because I suffered or because I don't trust people, not because I closed my heart off. No, because the emotions arise from within my body. I'm Maria. So here's where when people say you have to have suffered because emotions, nope. There's a physiological way you suffer, and that's because you're in your temporal junction relating to the events with the past in mind, and you're just ruminating. And in fact, the neuroplasticity, you're going to wire yourself into suffering. I've seen people do it. I've seen people wire themselves shut in their actual armor and through doing their compulsive patterns versus going to a good therapist. And obviously, though, like Patrick Tiahan points out, not everybody is a good therapist because they don't have the ability to hold space for your inner child and know about the importance of explaining to a person who has childhood trauma a lot of things, including how they are going to be inclined to be codependent type people. It's only once you're caring enough about who you are and what you're doing in your life that you might go down the path of realizing, wait a minute, I like the idea of becoming a securely attached inside my body person, an independent self-agent person, and this is where we get to talk all about it as we learn to build emotion regulation skills and have relationships minus the drama in the masterclass that's coming up, but even in our episodes and all the time, I talk to you about being yourself. Now, the difference here is that a person who has a window of tolerance, and I'm going to see how do I do this. So when I've met people who don't want to take their projection, their adaptive child, they don't want to do like Patrick Tiahan says, hurt people who hurt people can learn to do the work. Or how about they're not actually engaged or invested in being interested. Their amygdala is not alerted to being interested in building long-term relationships. So they're not caring about building relationships. Let me see. I'm trying to use other examples because I want to use examples since most people will use the movies for stereotypes and explain their adaptive child projection, which is basically I'm superior or a martyr or I'm going to blame you or blame myself. So I'm going to change you, codependent type, or I'm going to take care of you, codependent type again. In all those cases, a securely attached person is like, I don't need taken care of and I don't need changing. And in the middle of this lovely two circle is low self-esteem, indirect communication, passive-aggressive, manipulation, and boundaries. And we actually know exactly what's happening, which is where low self-esteem equals you're afraid. I see a clown in front of me, and I'm not going to be reactive because a clown that is afraid is a clown that doesn't know love. So I automatically am going to take steps back, hold space, because that's exactly why, as I was saying, integration of the brain is not me judging you. No, my nervous system, I self-regulate. I'm securely attached within my own body. I know to differentiate. Something's going on over there. And then I know how to use my words the way Terry Real points out. What's the deal? Here's how I'm feeling. Here's my story. Here's how I'm interpreting it. And here's how we want to maybe handle this situation right now so that we can keep moving in alignment. And that's straightforward as it gets. So your mind and your brain and your relationships work really, really well when you're a 5D mystic or a securely attached person, a functional adult. And that's because you care about your relationships and you have love and respect. But it's because you're a secure, attached person inside your brain and your embodied brain. And we'll talk a little bit more. I'm going to let you go for now. And if you have any questions, reach out. If you don't stop by again, thank you for stopping by.